The movie begins with a short documentary on the Duke of Edinburgh Award. According to the documentary, the Duke of Edinburgh Award is an outdoor adventure challenge set up in 1956 to take young, vibrant youths out of the city into the countryside. Established by the Queen's husband, the Duke of Edinburgh, it centers on a 4-day campaign in a great outdoors away from the perils and distraction of urban life. By completing the task as a team work, foraging and orienteering, and the students will receive not only a certificate, but also the sense of pride that they are part of the promising youths of tomorrow. As the documentary plays out, 3 boys are engrossed in their phones. The guide informs them there will be no phones, just their grit and determination to make it out. 3 friends Dean, Duncan, and DJ Beetroot set out on the adventure challenge to get the popular Duke of Edinburgh Award. They are assisted by a teacher, Mr. Carlyle, who is there to guide and lead them, by explaining routes and by giving them his advice and direct them, in order to help them complete the quest and get the award. Mr. Carlyle takes them to the hillside in his minibus. Just before they set out on the journey, they are joined by a student named Ian, who believes that the Duke of Edinburgh Award will help improve his college applications. He is determined to get it and very intentional throughout the journey. Surprised at seeing Ian, the trio for some moments gave a silent treatment before finally blending in during the journey. Mr. Carlyle takes a roll call. The boys call their names except DJ Beetroot, who for some sort of reason is hiding his real name from his friends. Mr. Carlyle explains the map to the boys in a jiffy and told them to meet him at the campsite. After saying this, he left in his minibus to reunite with the kids at the campsite. Ian, who seems to be the brilliant among the trio, shows them the direction to follow. Dean, Duncan, and DJ Beetroot, who happen to be best friends, express some characters that were strange to Ian but very usual to them. They behave strange and odd, making Ian shocked, surprised and amused occasionally. They chatted and discussed as they continued the journey. While going, they came to a puddle and crossed except DJ Beetroot, who beckoned on Duncan to give him a lift. Duncan crosses the puddle and gives DJ Beetroot a lift by carrying him on his back to cross it. DJ Beetroot says it would look somehow seeing a superstar crossing the puddle. As they continue, Duncan found some boots and gave it to DJ Beetroot to wear. According to him, it's better than what DJ Beetroot wore and would make his journey better. DJ Beetroot dismisses the idea and throws the shoes over the wired fence. The shoe unknown to him and the other trio landed on a corpse. They got to a fence and were confused if it was electric or not. Duncan was asked to touch to know if it was working or not. Duncan asks why it must be him, and finally touches it and gets electrocuted. He fell on the ground as a result of the shock. Dean tears a paper to smoke. Ian asks him what he rolled it up with, and he says the corner of the map. Dean, Duncan and DJ Beetroot engage in some sort of play, DJ Beetroot rapping while Dean and Duncan hails him. Ian brings out the map to find out where they are and how to locate the campsite. He finds out that the paper Dean tore from the side of the map was actually from the middle. While on their way to the campsite, they met a farmer who was in his tractor working on his field. They seek for information on where they are. The farmer tells the boys to be careful, they don't want to be lost on the highlands, that the area was dangerous. It was better in the old days, people died so young now as there is danger everywhere. There are traps, smugglers' tunnels to fall into. DJ Beetroot, who parades himself as a singer, and shares his CD with the farmer. The farmer accepts it with some mixed reactions on his face. The 4 boys waved him by and continued the journey. After a while, they stopped to take rest, and they saw a man who they claimed to be the Duke of Edinburgh. He was dressed in shorts, holding a hunter's gun and covered with a semi-torn mask. While they marvel at what they saw and wonder what he was doing yet, the man cocked his gun and pointed towards them. They stood to see what he was going to do, and only took to their heels when he fired the first bullet stole distances away. They quickly ran up, and Dean sets out to make a bomb, which he learned by downloading a terrorist handbook at Duncan's house, and they managed to put the man's leg on fire. While the man struggled to quench the fire, running away in the process, the boys jubilated and continued their journey. Reaching the campsite, they find Mr. Carlyle and the minibus parked in a corner. Worried by the attack they just faced, they tried to explain to Mr. Carlyle what had just happened, but he shut them off and have them a task to fetch firewood for a campfire. Dean, dizzy as a result of a substance he took, looks at Mr. Carlyle's legs and discovers it was burned. He asks him why his legs were burned, and while Mr. Carlyle tried to explain, the boys became alert, remembering they set the Duke of Edinburgh legs on fire, and moves backwards, until they were some distance away from Mr. Carlyle. They suspected him to be the Duke of Edinburgh. Duncan, unknown to them, sneaked into the minibus and ran Mr. Carlyle over. The other three were shocked and questioned Duncan. Duncan replied, he was getting back because he tried to kill them. To cover the death, they put Mr. Carlyle in the minibus, carried it uphill and positioned it in a way that would make it fall down the hill. To their dismay, the bus rolled downwards. Meanwhile, the area police officers Sergeant Morag and PC Hamish halt their search for the bread thief, after they received a report that Duncan is a terrorist. While the boys continued their journey, they encountered the Duke again, this time not alone but with his wife, the Duchess. She is dressed in the same outfit as the Duke. The Duke shoots at them again, causing them to take to their heels. Meanwhile, the minibus kept moving backwards and the police continued their investigation for Duncan. While running, Ian falls into a pit and injured. He asks Duncan to help him, but instead Duncan covers him with some dirt and sticks, and then bolts off. They came to a field where they saw a lighted house. DJ Beetroot asks Duncan and Dean to come along, but instead a little disagreement broke out. Dean accuses DJ Beetroot of having no army and makes some shocking revelation. Fed up with them, he points the middle finger at them and goes towards the house, while Dean and Duncan look for a cave to hide. DJ Beetroot enters the house and at first was afraid. He tried to leave, but couldn't. Rather he heard someone say he was DJ Beetroot. They kept shouting his name and he got confidence. Turns out the farmer he shared the tape with has been playing it with other farmers, and they became huge fans. DJ Beetroot is excited and affirms he is DJ Beetroot, and everyone screams in excitement, and parties with them. Ian stands up from the pit and discovers Dean, Duncan, and DJ Beetroot has left him. Not only that, the Duke and Duchess were around. He scrambles for safety, looking to hide from the Duke and Duchess. Unfortunately, they sight him and come after him. He keeps running until he comes to an enclosure. Seeing a padlock on a board, he thinks it's a tunnel and breaks the padlock, only to discover it was not a tunnel. The sound of the rock hitting the lock led the Duke and Duchess to where he was. They captured him and proceeded to kill him. Dean and Duncan, while taking powdered soup, hears the shout of Ian and decides to rescue him. They run towards the direction of his voice, shouting and determined to fight his oppressor off. They got to where he was and tried to rescue him. Ian, whose head was on fire, dived the Duchess only to be knocked off. Dean snatches the sword of the Duchess. The Duke then moved and tried to shoot with his gun, only to hear the sound of DJ Beetroot coming with the farmers. They seize the opportunity to collect the gun from him, and he runs away with his wife, the Duchess. They are now reunited like before. While Ian expresses his anger on why they abandoned him, Duncan responds, they left him to save him. Fed up and determined, they decide to hunt the Duke and Duchess. Still in possession of his gun and his wife's sword, they tracked him and his wife to a field. Intimidated by their confidence and knowing the boys are not afraid of them, the Duke and Duchess flee for safety. The boys keep pursuing the Duke and Duchess, screaming as they chase after them. The Duke and his wife run into a house, but just before he does, he brings out a trumpet and blows it. As he enters the house with his wife, he shuts it. They spoke about a few things and almost kissed, only to be disrupted by Duncan, who breaks a piece of the wooden door. The Duke engages in a mini fight with his dagger while Duncan fights back with his fork. Eventually he scrapes the skin of the Duke with his fork. The Duke shouts in pain and runs towards a tunnel which leads to their escape. The boys, sensing they were trying to escape, hurried and broke the door, giving them free entrance into the house. The Duke and his wife, following the underground tunnel, came to an open space. That was supposed to be their escape point, but unfortunately, there was no boats to cross through. Angry and afraid at the turnout of events, they hear the boys coming through the tunnel chanting. The boys meet them, and they engage in a discussion. The Duke and his wife accuse the boys of being disrespectful and using foul words. Dean replies to them, although Duncan, DJ Beetroot and Ian don't understand what he said, they all agreed with him. Still talking and planning on what to do, dressed male and female hunters joins the Duke and Duchess. They were carrying a long gun and dressed in similar attire with the Duke and Duchess. The appearance of these people who are friends with the Duke gave them confidence and made the boys afraid. Obviously, they were heavily outnumbered in number of people and weapons. At this point, they feared for their lives and surrendered their weapons. While the hunters positioned at a particular point, the minibus fell and crushed all. The boys were excited that their lives has been saved and screamed in excitement. Duncan goes to the bus to cover Mr. Carlyle, who he thinks is dead, with his cloth, only for Mr. Carlyle to grab him. Shocked that he was alive, they followed through the other door to bring him out. They lay him on the ground and attempted to bring him back to life. Dean poured in his mouth powdered soup, while Duncan pierced his skin with a fork in an attempt to jerk him up. Mr. Carlyle jerks up, and the boys move back. Mr. Carlyle accuses them of killing him and dumping him in the car. He said they won't be getting the Duke of Edinburgh award. The boys scream and express their displeasure. While they were still talking, the police officer Sergeant Morag and PC Hamish came into the picture. They were a bit surprised to see Mr. Carlyle in such a state. Sergeant Morag moves to the trunk of the car to find a large stack of bread. Mr. Carlyle is the bread thief they are looking for, she asks the kids who own the bus, and they pointed to the people crushed by the bus. They would have pointed at Mr. Carlyle, who gave them a signal. In return, they would get the Duke of Edinburgh award. The boys were excited and happy that they finally completed the adventure. Before going off completely, they see 4 ladies about to embark on the same award. The boys meet them and ask if they are on the adventure for the Duke of Edinburgh award. They replied yes, and the boys gave the ladies their weapons. The Duke's gun, the Duchess' sword, and Duncan gave his fork. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to watch more videos like this.